What's up, guys? This is a guide on Advanced Supreme Eco. I know, finally, but we're coming up on 2,000 subscribers. A lot of people have asked for this, and I'm excited to put it together. So, do you guys want an extremely strong and flexible eco build? This build's going to be very similar to the ones you've seen in games, but unlike those, I can actually explain what I'm doing every step of the way. So let's get into it. Now, if you've played any Supreme at all, you know there's a big difference on eco builds. How some people can get a lot done and others kind of can't. They don't scale very well. And the thing with bar is that eco doesn't scale linearly. So if you don't get things right from the beginning, then you'll be very, very behind. And like I said, I'm going to go through my build step by step along the way and kind of explain what I'm doing, and I'll also explain branching points, or points in the game where I would expect things to happen or not. And those will kind of help inform you on why I'm choosing to do one thing over another, and to also help you understand if you're particularly vulnerable to things. And all this is from the perspective of having played more than 2,800 games on Supreme so far. So what you see so far is this is just a simple base layout. I want to call out here too that the wind produces a constant amount of energy. I know that's weird, but it's an average. It is the average for the map. So if you're benchmarking builds, you can use that to sort of level the playing field on you can reasonably expect. Obviously, highs and lows, you have to handle highs and lows in your build, so you have to build some leeway in, but it gives you a baseline. I just want to throw that out there. I'll put that tweak in the description. So the main thing starting out here is we want to spend our metal quickly, as fast as possible, and we need to get build power up and going. So what does that mean? In my case, after you see it's 2025, we got a new map. So after nerfing the way the trees work in the backline, I make 2 resers back here, and I go up to 17 or 18 wind, a little more wind than I used to. And that's just because I have less resers. So you can do that. Now, yeah, I just have my comm making wind. I want to go up to 17 or 18. I want to boost these out. See, I shouldn't have been floating E there. You really want to spend all the E that you have. And he's going to go get the rocks now. That's good. As soon as this gets done, I'm going to boost this con turret with my commander out, because my commander has a lot of build power. All right, here we go. So now he can go over here. And then I'll build the T2 lab right here. Just want to pause real quick, talk about this. So I put the lab here so that the T2 can come out this way and immediately tag this mechs. That's step 1. And then we'll get to the T2 going here and then here in a second, but that's why the lab's placed like this.
Battle started.
Moving on. Commander's boosting up the con turret. We need that. We need more build power. You can see we have metal still. We have energy that we can spend, so we need to do that quickly. And the fastest way to build something early is with your comm, because it has 300 build power, or the most build power that you can have, which is very helpful. Now this next con is going to queue up a con turret. We're going to boost it again. And what I'm going to do instead of finishing these, I'm going to have this con go over here, build these, build these. Once you start getting enough E, I would get the storage as soon as possible. So in like a normal game, what that means is when wind goes up, you want to build your storage, because that's when you can actually afford it. Right now I have 2 things putting down blueprints so that I can more quickly build these wind and then go into the conversion, and then go into quickly reclaiming my comm as well. So these 4 converters are to catch any overflow, and that's pretty helpful. The game is on a little bit slower speed, but because I'm in single player, I can go faster and slower, which helps. All right, so T2 lab's going down. Now, Couple
Battle
things that
paused.
are going to happen pretty quick here. This needs to get eaten. So this helps fund the T2 lab. We need to blow our comm here, which is where this guy's going. I'm going to eat these trees. So that's what we're about to do. Now, okay, I should have had the comm going. He can eat this. This guy's going to eat the comm, and then this guy. Remember, and one thing with the builds like this is you want to make sure that when you're done eating the rocks, that this guy's always eating trees, or you're going to have a hard time. We don't want to blow the comm yet. The thing is, we need to spend this metal. So the comm actually does make a little bit of metal. So once you get 500 up here, you can blow your comm. And then we can eat the comm. Like this. Now pause. All right, so that's kind of the early build, the early opener here. Remember, these are stuck on average wind. So this is like this is like what you can reasonably expect. Continuing on, what we're going to do here, we're going to eat this on. We don't need that. We're going to build this. A couple things are about to happen here. I just want to call out.
Battle
We're
paused.
actually going to pause again. So I'm going to do cheat. Oops. Okay. So we're going to give me the metal that the air player would give. So that's going to be /ATM 450. Okay, that's going to give me 450 metal. It's going to give me a little E as well, but anyway. All right, so that gave me that. So that's just what the air player would usually send. And remember, this eco build isn't like every eco build. There's far too many things that you can do from here. So this doesn't cover all the random infinite cheese you can do from eco or things like that. This is really just an eco focused build where I want to talk about like how you can have a flexible and strong economy like for like a late game sort of scenario. So that's what we're going for. It matters. I just want to throw that disclaimer out there.
Battle started.
But yeah, we're eating the comm. We just got paid by air. So that's what that is. And we just got a transport from air as well. That is nice. I accidentally paused that. But that's fine. So this guy can go eat trees. Go eat trees. Be gone. Now, the timings are going to be a little bit weird, probably because of I'm doing this faster or slower than I have in the past with like different speeds of things. So the timing down here won't be perfect, but it is actually right in line with what I would expect. So you can see I am kind of middling on the energy production right now, so I'm just going to self-D this like I'm giving it to air. Maybe we go up to another windmill or two, to be honest. But let's stop. All right, so this is a mistake I see a lot of people make. You see I put my lab here. T2 immediately comes off, tags this mechs, tags this mechs, tags this mechs, tags this mechs, right? We want to keep these alive. That's important. All right. Alternatively, if you just tag this mechs and then immediately give it to air, you are crippling yourself. So in a normal game, the timing you want to look for to have these 3 mechs done is 6.5 minutes. Roughly. You know, I get it. Things change here and there or whatever, but if you need a benchmark, these should be done by 6.5 minutes, and you should really probably have shared T2 to air before 5.5 minutes. So just keep that in mind as like some benchmarks, like things to keep in your head when you're going through your builds. Heck, if you get better timings, let me know. I might change my build. But that's what I'm working with so far. Now, what are we thinking about right now? We're 5.5 minutes into the game. Usually the front's already dead. I'm only kind of kidding. But seriously, another thing that you could do at this point, or actually slightly before this.
Battle
so
paused.
One strategy that I've seen people do, or like I've done before, right? So rather than open with the T2 con, you make a gunslinger, and like pond boosts you, and that gunslinger goes to front. That's one thing we could have done. What are the things to talk are worth talking through that are fairly common? You could rush a sniper. You don't really have E for that yet, though, so I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, basically, a gunslinger opener is not crazy. It's pretty risky, especially now that banishers are meta. Banishers kind of eat gunslingers, so there's a really small window where they're effective.
Battle started.
But so what we're doing right now is, yeah, we're just upgrading our mexes, right? But what are we going to do after? After this, we need to scale a little bit of energy. I know that sounds weird, but the difference. So this build used to have a couple more of these guys, and the thing is, when you have this much more metal production, so like we have like a lot more metal production. We need more E. Like, we actually just can't afford to spend the metal. So in order to do that, actually I'm gonna make some butlers first. And let's pause here again real quick. So butlers are the best way to make windmills, wind turbines for you intellectuals. Now, this is just kind of the simplest way to do this. Somebody in my comments actually showed me this, or somebody in chat. You build them 5 wide. All right. So I'm holding Shift and Alt and dragging. All right. 5 wide. All right. So I have my grid. Remember, your mouse is up here. Your stuff's down here. All you got to do is go here in the middle, hold Shift, left click, and then boom. All right. What happens now is your butlers go in order down this way. It's the most efficient way to do it. And so I do 3, and yes, 3 butlers can hit these efficiently. So that's what I would recommend you doing.
Battle started.
Now, so we're building the con. This is a reason why you get a transport. All right, it takes forever for the T2 con to walk. Might actually need more. See, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. We're doing all right. We still need a little bit of E, but it's all right. What we're gonna do is tag this, take him here. He's gonna hold this mex for us. We're going to give this to the Geo player by blowing it up. And this is important to call out. All right, so far,
Battle paused.
I've given T2 here, T2 here. A couple things that can happen right here at this point in the game is you need to make T2 for GOC, or not for GOC, for Beach C. All right, here as well. And additionally, in some off chance, like Geo might be buying from you, which isn't technically bad. In general, it's not bad, but that's just another thing to call out. It's just that it costs E. You might have a hard time having enough E to build that T2. So you may need to ask for E if they want T2 from you. Now, Pond might want T2 as well. This is when you would do that. You definitely need to get E from them, but they should be able to afford it. But I want to call out something important here. It doesn't matter if GOC pays you for T2 or not. You give them T2. The reason for that is you're really the only one that can. They will not ever get T2 if you don't give it to them. And GOC is extremely important. You don't want them to have a hard time, and you should always give it to them. You should fly it right here, and you should give it to them. Heck, queue up their mexes. Like, drop it there, queue up their mexes. Like, they need T2 as fast as possible.
Battle started.
All right, moving on. So, all right, next phase of the build. What we need to do is spend our metal as fast as possible. It's basically what you always need to do, but in this case, we are going to try to build as many butlers as possible. All right, so you notice something here? We're starting to have an energy surplus. This is good. We don't have our 4th mex though, and our 4th mex is the most important thing right now. So what we're gonna do is queue these guys up. Not like that. We're gonna queue them up like this. All right, grab them, space, right click. All right, they're going to, this is important, all right. We need metal real bad. We have a ton of E. We do not need to make more butlers. we need to make this max because it will go from making us 2 metal income, 2.3 metal income, up to 9.2. That's what we need more than anything. So these guys are going to build here, but because they're all on low priority, these 10 units are going to build this.
Battle
And that's
started.
good. So this will get built quickly. But yeah, we're in that kind of Butler building phase. I go up to 24. 24 was what I did in the past. It seems to work fine now. You can, take or leave that number. Try a number that you like, by all means. But that's the number that I use, and works for me. I know 24 is a lot. All right, so we got our 4th mechs done. That's good. GOC has T2. Air has T2. This is all very normal. One thing I tend to do is build this section. Well, actually what I do is build, I usually do something like this. Now that I can't build up here anymore because Nacuxus took away our mountain. Very sad. So we can't use that real estate anymore. It's actually tragic. One thing I do is I build up farther away than I don't build in line. The reason for that is these will get built and they will be in the way very quickly. So that doesn't seem worth it to me. Like, mostly because I build my eco over here. I'll quickly run into them if I build them there. So yeah, we are just building butlers. So let's stop and talk about the state of the game.
Battle paused.
Obviously I'm alone, but 9 minutes 45, some things can be going on. All right. That's when you see early T2 kind of winning or losing here on mid. So you may need to think about making T2 for mid. Like, you may need to use your transport. And one thing I do a lot is I put a sniper here. So at this point, you're on 1,000 metal, 1,000 energy income. You can afford to do this. Like, you can make snipers if you need to. They can zone this area out. That helps a lot. I mean, you can give metal away to people. You can give wind. You can do all sorts of things like that. But you might need to help mid, depending on how well they're holding, depending on if your geo is alive and breathing, or maybe C is already lost. I know it's 9 minutes 45, but that can happen as well. So that's just stuff to keep in mind. The longer the game goes on, you need to be mindful of the state of the game and if you need to get involved. So that's just something to think about. Like I said, this is really more of an illustration of how to maximize the amount of eco that you're making. So, all right, we have 1, 2, wait. Oh, 1A4. Okay, yeah, 24. Good. All right, so
Battle paused.
stop here again. Let's talk about this. What do you guys see here? We're spending all our metal. That's good. Your butlers can pull around 50 metal per second. Post update. It's 2025. Remember, we have the eco rebalance. See, wind is 40 metal now instead of 37. These butlers will pull around 50, so we're not quite there. So we're kind of like in this. We're scaling up to it, right? So eventually your energy production's going up, and eventually you'll hit some, threshold, and then you'll start making enough metal that you can't spend it on your butlers alone. And that's going to come up here in a second, you'll see. But that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're scaling up to that point. So we have these butlers. We need them to, you can, build wind over here or whatever. That's fine. Not like that. Anyway, yeah. I'm just going to queue up some more wind. Wind is very, very good. It's better than fusion. We need to finish this quickly. So this is an advanced guide. And so some of the stuff isn't that simple. What I did right there is I selected all of these butlers. I just grabbed them and then I space and right click on this. And then it doesn't cancel their queues. All right. So we're going to make a con next. So when this gets done, we queue up the storage. We can take this anti-nuke over here. All right, we're going to grab these guys again. They don't run away yet. Because we need to use all their build power. This is where all the build power I have is. We're going to make this. So we have our storage. Because we have a lot of build power here. We can go like this. Eat this. Our storage is done. You come here. Now let's talk about the state of the game at this point.
Battle paused.
Couple things you can do. We're 11 minutes into the game. Stuff's happening pretty quick. We are converting all of the energy that we're making. We're doing that at T1 converters. This is important because they don't cost a lot. But what just happened here? We have a 3,000 metal kind of influx, right? We ate our lab. We have to do something with that in order to make more economy or units or something. So one thing we could have done there is, I mean, we can send that metal to Geo. We can send it to somewhere important. So we could do that. At least today, with the way resource sharing works, you can do that. But a very common thing to do is to build a fusion, because with my current rate of income, by the time this is done, I know fusions are like 4,400 metal, right? By the time the fusion's done, you'll have made basically the exact amount you need to complete it, given this amount of build power. And with the nerfs to wind, you don't have as much metal as you used to. So I used to build more construction turrets here, but I'm not doing that now because stuff's more expensive. The wind is more expensive, specifically. So I'm just going to go the eco route. So we're going to go up to like 5 fusions, and then I'll continue to talk about what we're doing past that. So let's see how that goes. So we got to use this build power again. The reason we're using them to do this is because fusions have a very low build cost, and we want to make sure that we are spending all our metal, right? The metal is making you no money when it's sitting in the bank, and we need it to make us money. All right, so if I hit 0, I'm just going to hit next. This is like perfect timing, literally perfect timing, right? So we have a fusion, we drag our slider down. All right, we need to make, this is important too. All right, every one of these is making me 1 metal per second. It's pulling 70 energy, it's making me 1 metal. It cost 1 metal. Each of these cost 1 metal. If it runs for 1 second, it's paid for itself in metal terms, right? So this is good. I'm making 20 metal income, T1 conversion alone, not including these, right? Another 19. So I got 40 metal income off T1 conversion right now. I have stealth detection because I'm paranoid, and yeah, like I said, this is a more eco-focused build. But yeah, we're 12 minutes in, and just keep an eye for your own intuition, right? Watch the metal income. So we're on 65 metal income. Remember a second ago I said that we're spending about 50 metal income or so on building wind, and that's great. Wind is the best source of energy income. If you're scaling, you want to build energy on Supreme, and you want it to be wind. Now these fusions are just going to come up passively. I have a bunch more build power going into wind, so I'm not worried about like over investing in this. These aren't on high priority. So it's basically like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units are making fusion, while another 24, well, minus 6, right? So I got 18 units making wind. This is fine. See, I'm already up to 72 metal income. Remember, this is average because the wind is at the average wind. So what you'll see in real games is that this will spike. These will all turn yellow, that sort of thing. So that's why, you know, these aren't all active, but it can handle a surplus. That's just stuff to keep in mind. So we are scaling, and we are just gonna, and this is kind of, you're just kind of riding the rocket ship of income, right? See, now we're at 80. And what you want to do is get ready to hang on because the build gets insane. There's this kind of scaling point, and this is where it's like kind of feels like there's a lull right here. In a normal game, you know, stuff's going to be going on. Nothing's ever this simple. Like for example, you might not get to make this fusion. Like you may need to make units. You may need to go air, and that'll dramatically change your choices. But we're assuming, you know, 14 minutes into the game that you don't have to play anyone else's position yet, which is a big assumption in a lot of games, but it is what we're doing. So oh, okay, we need these guys to continue to build. We're just going to build here because we can. Anyway, one thing you can do, one thing I like to do, Control W, select all butlers. I queue them back here. Once they're all queued up doing what they're doing, I queue them back at home so that I can get them to, so I can know when they are idle. Essentially, they're going to finish their queues and they're going to return home. And you can give them more jobs. So like one thing I do when they're done with their queues
Battle
is
paused.
I will build wind over here. This is often unused. This is often unused. This is often unused. This area, often unused. Same with this area, but be careful. Your GeoC player may like to build there. So generally I build there and ask for forgiveness. And by forgiveness, I mean I just give all of the wind and the butlers to them if they care. So because usually if they care, they're worth giving butlers to. But yeah, your mileage may vary there. You can build wind down here if you want to see as well, but or up here depending on if they use it. But it's basically wind is the best way to scale energy, and butlers are the best way to do that. So you want to put as many windmills in as many places as possible.
Battle started.
That is key. All right, we are pulling. We're at over 100 metal income. T1 conversion. Notice something here. We haven't made more construction turrets. We're not making T2 converters. The reason for that is T2 converters cost a ton of build power. I don't have a ton of build power. I have 3 con turrets and 2 constructors. So, and fusions do not cost a lot of build power either. Or, well, I say either. Fusions do not cost a lot of build power. So it works particularly well. So I'm going to pause right here. And something important just happened. So remember I said to kind of like, you kind of have to kind of hang on here. Notice that we just sort of broke out of what we can spend completely. This is an important thing to notice when you're scaling. And this is like a kind of like a micro example of how to scale efficiently. So you need to spend all your resources all the time. And I see a lot of people not do that, but every ounce of metal that you don't have invested isn't making you anything. Which I know it sounds obvious, but I see people float metal all the time. I mean, everyone's guilty of that, right? So you just want to be mindful of this when you go from spending all your metal to not doing that. So which means you just need to make build power. Now, I have my slider dragged down. That's great. We're making fusions. This is good. But what I need to do here is start to think about how to add more build power here.
Battle started.
So when I get done with this, I'm going to add on 3 con turrets. Probably actually more than that. And then now once I get up to like, 12 or 13 con turrets, I'm going to start to make T2 converters. You can, like, T1 converters are fine, but it's just easier. So that's why. You notice I can't actually, I actually need a lot more build power. You notice I was like initially floating 300, but I actually can't keep up. I'm at 130, 140 metal income now. It can be hard to keep up. Another point to take note of here. I go 4 wide. Reasons for that. Let me just kind of draw where we're going actually.
Battle paused.
We go 4 wide. What does that give us? That gives us 4 wide aphis. All right. 4 wide aphis. And so that's very dense. Density is good. Like it's risky in its own way, but it's also risky to space them out because you're poorer. So pick which risk you want. You want to be poorer, do you want to have less resources, or can you defend yourself by having an efficient build and controlling for the right variables? It's just a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off. So pick your poison. So yeah, we go 4 wide. We're going with something like this, right, boys? We got this. We have 4 wide here. Just kind of envision this, and we have 4 wide here, like this. All right. Can you see it now? This is important to be able to do the more advanced your bases get, because you start to run out of room. your build power needs to always be in use. So don't waste it. That's another big error, is to have build power not building. Overbuilding build power is just really bad as well. Build power is an important resource. You don't want to waste it. It's also really expensive too. You don't want to overbuild it. All right, moving on. But that's where we're going.
Battle started.
But not for a bit. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna go up to 5. And at this point, 16 minutes in, what you can let's talk about some branch points here.
Battle paused.
You can go T3. You can build 2 fusions and go T3. You can build 3 and go T3. You can make double air lab. You can do all sorts of things. You can make spam for mid. What else? You can, I don't know, you can send metal to people as well. You can boost, yeah, you just boost in general. But 16 minutes in, you want to be especially aware of how well your air player is doing. Honestly, you want to be basically, as soon as this fusion gets done, you want to do this and look over here and see what Lil Bro's doing, because you don't get to play the game if you get bombed. Now, a lot of times what's going to happen, especially if you're higher OS, is you're going to have to play air. As well as when you're playing eco, you're probably going to have to play air anyway, because you're super rich and you have the resources to do it, and you can impact a lot of the game from air. But that's just something to think about. So if you've seen any of my games, you know I build my lab here, build power around it like this, and then I build my other lab here with build power around it like this. Now, so like I would buy a con from air, P2 con, but that's something to think about as well. I would recommend going up to at least 5 fusions. That's probably fine. I did some tests previously where it was like around, the breakpoint was around 9 or so. I don't really like to build them outside of this line. It's just personal preference, but I start building Aphis after this. I'm on 12,000 energy income, 17 and a half minutes into the game. It's very rare to go this long without having to, build some military units or whatever, but it's just kind of an idea of what kind of potential you can expect. But I mostly just wanted to call this out so that you can be mindful of the game state and some of the transitions that you need to be aware of. But going air at this point is not crazy. So yeah, it would be like this, and I would build power around it, kind of like in that arc right there. And one thing, yeah, you just want to make sure that you keep up with like building converters. You'll notice that it starts to actually become hard to spend the money that you have. So one thing, if you're scaling later into the game, is air cons. They're just faster. And also core Core's T2 converters cost less build power, so that's just a small amount less build power, but they do cost less. So see, right now we have 3,000 metal in the bank, and that's because we haven't scaled build power enough. But that's just something to be mindful of. You always want to make sure your build power is scaled enough. If you're going to put that into an Aphis, you can do that. That would look like this. I'm not going to go ahead and build like my entire base out, but I do want to give you kind of some sort of a foundation for what your base could be. Obviously take or leave any of these. These are just suggestions. This is just what I do, but I wanted to explain how that is going. So we just put, yeah. So we can put an Aphis down. One other important thing to note, right?
Battle paused.
Now, is I talked about like having 2 columns. So what you end up with is converters over here. You have 4 wide here. You have converters here, out in this area. we're going up this way. You want to think about when you design your base, or how you envision your base, how you can maximize the space that you have. So, I mean, imagine these are all APHIS. Like, I've had games where I have APHIS from here to here. Like, completely full, tier 3 lab here, that sort of thing, right? So you can't do that if your base is built inefficiently. So if you don't want to connect your converters like this, if you want to leave a gap, knock yourself out or whatever. But just remember, like, there are trade-offs to doing this sort of thing. So just be careful spacing things out, because that is a cost. There's a cost to that. And it's that your build power can't hit everything it needs to. But one thing for scaling your build power quickly that I want to call out, if you are going to have 2 columns like this, is it helps a lot. So like with my base layout, I kind of make a bridge here like this.
Battle started.
And now I'm just going to show some examples. This isn't necessarily kind of a real thing, but this is like a kind of a potential, right? So see, my butlers are returning
Battle
home.
paused.
So what you can do is you just find somewhere else to build wind. All right, so we're gonna pretend that I did that. We're gonna pretend that I did that. That's great. You can also eat them if you need metal. Fantastic. All right, so you make a little build power bridge here, and then what you can do is you see all of this build power.
Battle started.
All of this build power ends here. So with that build power bridge like it is, you want to build like this. Okay, I think I'm doing this right, yeah. And that way, yeah, that way you have build power expanding quickly. Another thing I do sometimes while this is going up, and I may float E or whatever, I'm not super concerned, I'm just talking at this point, but you can use these two to eat these like this. Let's talk about this keybind. This is really important. So what I did right there was I grabbed these guys. I pressed E for reclaim. Grab, press E. Hold left alt. Okay, let me cancel this. I press G right there to cancel. Grab your conturrets. Press E. Hold left alt. Click. All right, what is this doing right now? I hold left alt, hold left click, and click on a unit. That says I want to reclaim every one of those units in my circle. So notice it's not going to reclaim my energy storage.
Battle started.
Which is very cool. Very helpful keybind. And it's very important for, honestly, scaling. Like, you need to be able to... So, like, if I wanted to do this quickly, I just did, like, I clicked this, Control W, and then I just selected all, even though like these can't hit it, and so it's not super efficient or anything, but that's just something to call out. So one thing you may run into is you may need to build an energy storage or a metal storage, because what you start to do at this point in the game is you start to move large amounts of metal. Let's talk about one scenario here. Let's say you went with a T3 lab.
Battle started.
All right, you got your T3 lab. Let's talk about a transition I see a lot of people have a hard time with. Don't worry, this is not like a perfect scenario or whatever, but it's not really the point. This is just an illustration. So you have your T3 lab. You got no money in the bank. Let's say you were, you're making your juggernaut or whatever, and you need to, eat this.
Battle paused.
You need to be able to spend an instantaneous amount of 8,400 metal. All right. So having one storage isn't sufficient for that. It only holds 10K. And when your economy gets to this state, 20,000 energy, 300 metal income, almost. When your economy gets to this state, you can't turn around and spend 8,000 metal. You need to have the build power to do that. So it's not it's not crazy to build 2 tier 2 metal storages because you're going to quickly hit 10k. Like watch.
Battle started.
Like try as you might. Like here, let's try to like. See, I just maxed out one of these, and I have all this BP. I could have like had these queued up or whatever. Here's another important keybind, boys. Grab your air constructors. This works really well with air cons. Grab the air constructors. We do control, or we go Z. We go V. I press V. I press A. I use the grid keys, right? Hold Shift, Alt, Space. We're gonna do it again. Grab your air cons. We go air cons V, A, Shift, Alt. See, Shift and Alt. I'm holding Shift. I'm holding Shift here. Hold Alt, Space. All right. So now when I unpause, you're going to see each of them have their own construction turret. This is a super, super, super important thing. The reason is it takes time for each constructor to move between blueprints. It saves an insane amount of time. It's a non-trivial optimization. All right. So if you want to kind of to do more advanced things, that is the way to do it. Is to scale build power quickly. That is how you do it. And see, in that 2 seconds I unpause, I hit 11,000 metal. Like you just literally can't spend this fast enough. So whenever you eat a tier 3 lab, kind of the main takeaway is you need to scale your build power. You might need to double it, and you probably need 2 metal storages. So seeing that it's 21 minutes into the game, it kind of got me thinking. Another timing you want to look out for, it's kind of a meme at this point on Supreme, and it's just the Marauder o'clock, or just when like Marauders show up. So Marauders can show up around like 18 or 20 minutes, and that's just something to think about. Like you need to be able to deal with that or know that you don't have to. That's kind of the main takeaway from that. So yeah, dealing with Marauders is important. Now see, like I have all this BP, it's being turned into an Apis. Now, let's say you're going really late game. You make 3 cons. You just queue them up like this. You know, throw an anti-nuke in. Throw another anti-nuke in. That's a good idea. Once things get late games, people start to try to do nukes. So what I did there is I pressed X and I pressed D, space, and then click. All right, what that does is interrupt my queue for the constructor, and then it placed it out of the queue, but I didn't lose all this. It's another advanced thing that's very important. And the thing about the thing about this that I like is with this ratio of 2 constructors to 1 just queued up making Apis in the middle, this is how you can kind of not AFK eco, but more or less, yeah. So here's another point. Let's say your butlers get done. This is another thing that I see people all the time. They build their wind. Remember these wind that I didn't build right here? They're in the way. They're not there because I didn't build them, but they would be in the way. And then I'd have to eat them, which I could do because I have build power here. However, a lot of times this is the point in the build where things get crazy. You don't have time to eat them. All right. Right now, these butlers are getting done. They don't have anything to do. I can have them eat these.
Battle start.
Remember with you hold this, you hold left alt, you press E, you hold left alt, you click and you drag. Now your butlers are using their build power to get rid of a thing that's in the way. So you can use the butlers for that, which is great. Now, one thing you want to be aware of is you can grab these, grab your con turrets, hold space and right click. You got to pay attention to your economy balance here. So you see minus 26 plus 30. We need to click on these guys. We need to fix the balance. So you just grab your con turrets like this. Fix the balance. We need to make sure that we are converting. If you ever see that you are not converting all of your metal, or your energy rather, you're leaving metal on the table. Every 1,000 or so energy is like 15 metal income that you're not converting. So you see people that float 10,000 E. Like that's, I see that all the time. That's an insane amount of metal that's just not being used. Or I mean, it's overflowing to your team or whatever, but you don't really want to do that. Probably want to, yeah, spend it all and scale optimally with it. So are we even now? Yeah, see, we're even. We're even now. This is good. So what happens here, so you see I got 2,000 in the bank. That's going to start to happen. We keep scaling build power, and one thing you can do too is scale build power around your air. See, it's late game. This is obviously at this point things are very, 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 very contrived, but I want to kind of go over some scenarios for you that are just like kind of examples of what you can run into. It won't look exactly like this, but they're just things you need to be aware of.
Battle started.
Now, what else? And just things you need to be aware of, but things that I would just pay attention to. Okay, the little homies, what are you doing? Butlers are not very smart. So you notice that I use this a lot. The whole like shift alt space. Grab the air cons, shift alt space. See, I queued some over here. I queued some over here, so they're immediately going to keep scaling my build power. This is great. I need more build power on my lab. Shift alt space. Shift alt space. It took me a while, but it did eventually become second nature. So it does take a little bit. And yeah, this ratio seems to work well for build power. Now, what are these guys doing? Okay, yeah, you guys just go eat these. Now this build power is not being wasted. I'm eating these. Sometimes you see people blow these up. I mean, you can do that, or you can just eat them with the butlers. And what else? Yeah, the other kind of late games. Let's talk about like late game compositions. On Supreme, it's basically Titans. On most maps, it's basically Titans. Titans are really good, and they work really well in late game. So let's say you need to take back a sea. You're going to spam Titans into the sea. Flagships are broken. Everyone knows it. The only way that you're going to take the sea over is with Titans. You're probably going to need to send tier 3 hovers with them because they could make subs. But once you make tier 3 hovers, the subs will die, and you can just walk into them. You'll probably need to have air. That's why I always build air as well. It's a real shame to die when you have 700 metal income and you're not making planes because your air player can't keep up, or they get double aired, right? So you should make planes as eco. Pretty much all the time. And basically use all of your economy to fill gaps in your team. But yeah, spamming Titans is basically in-game unit composition. Trying to think what else. Yeah, Titans, air. I would generally not recommend spamming Marauders later than like after between 20 and 30 minutes, just because they kind of lose their luster. They're generally pretty weak, and you need a lot of them. Like you've seen some YouTube games where I made like 100 of them or whatever, but that was mostly for the memes and because I wanted to, not because it was like probably the right choice. It was the fun choice. So one point of when you're making your base doesn't have to look like my base, but you'll notice that this build power is like all this build power is being used. Remember, like this build power built these Aphis, but now they have another purpose. They're building air, right? So when you get up here, you can eat these and these, and you can build an air lab there. And then these can build air and these can build air. They can go back and forth between
Battle started.
building air. So that's just stuff you want. That's stuff you want to think about. Another question I get asked is, when do you eat fusions? So it's basically at
Battle
this point in the
paused.
game when I think it's okay to eat a fusion. I have 150 con turrets. In range of these fusions, I probably have 100 con turrets in range of these fusions. It's fine. If they're in the way, go for it. Go ahead and eat them. You're probably going to need to make a storage because you're probably going to struggle to spend the metal. To help with spending the metal, you can make air cons. So you can do this.
Battle started.
You can add an air lab here. Put it on repeat. Factory guard is off. Right click on this guy because he's spending the most metal. And then just spam T1 cons. That'll help you spend the metal. It'll give you a lot of good mobile build power as well. But that's just a way that you can do that. It's probably the easiest way. One thing I want to talk about, kind of now that we're towards the end of the discussion here, is don't make units you can't afford. I see people make Thors all the time on 1 Aphis. All the time. Titans on 1 Aphis. So I just want to just have a thought experiment. All right. So if you, one thing I've seen plenty of times, if you do that, you're going to have a Thor 25 minutes into the game. All right. Or 23 minutes or whatever. And that's all you're going to have. And it's not going to do anything because it's probably going to get degunned when you try to push mid with it. And then the guy across from you, if he's me, my base is I'm going to have 5 Aphis. And that Thor that you built is going to die. And you're going to be so far behind, you're never going to catch up. So you want to make units when you can build them quickly. That's all I'm saying. If you can build enough of them to affect change in the game quickly, then you should build them. So some kind of breakpoints I would suggest thinking about is, for me, I don't build Thors basically ever, but when I do build them, I build them on like a minimum of 400 metal income. It just feels terrible to build them on less. For Titans, it's usually 500 plus. So whenever I see that one of these C's is you can't go there. If I ever want to take a C back, I am scaling as fast as possible to 500 metal income. And if I can get away with 600 metal income and then make Titans, I'll do it then. But making a Titan on 150 metal income is going to not do anything. And it's going to take forever. You're not going to have the build power. You're not going to have the resources. And it's just really, really bad. When you're on 600 metal income, you can actually create enough Titans to do a thing with them. And that's my soapbox on making units that you can't afford. But anyway, really appreciate all of you guys watching. Let me know in the comments below if you have questions. Where did I go wrong? Where do you guys see ways that I can improve this build or other builds related to eco? And yeah, just let me know. I am curious what you all think. Let me know if you like having a more advanced guide where I kind of stop and explain, step by step along the way what's going on. And yeah, so thanks again for 2,000 subscribers almost. Well, oh yeah, almost at this point. But it's gone by quick. Never thought we would be here. So GG's, boys.